1984 by George Orwell. Have you read this book? If so, you know how dope it is. If not, let's talk about it. Now, folks, whenever I want to talk about a book, I do not spoil the book. This way, for anybody listening who wants to get the book, I'm not going to spoil it, because like a movie, I want you to experience the intro, the middle, the climax, and the conclusion on your own without knowing anything about it. So I'm going to give you my review without any spoilers. So just a general kind of picture of what you're going into is this. It's a book, and it's in relation to dystopia. Now, if people... they're probably more familiar with utopia. Utopia is this place of everything's perfect, it's paradise, it's heaven, there's no evil, there's no killing, everything's great. Dystopia is the opposite. It's a society full of hate and killing, death, deceit, manipulation, lying. So it's terrible. It's the exact opposite. Everything that would be good in utopia, it's the exact opposite. It's dystopia. So it's about, so you gotta understand this to really appreciate this book. This book was written in 1948, right? 1948, George Orwell writes this book. Now, what is 1948? Let's break this down. World War II was coming to an end closely. World War II had already ended. World War II was from 1939 until 1945, if I'm not mistaken. So World War II ends in 1945. And mind you, this was the one where the Nazis were really, really big in this one, because the Nazi group developed in 1933. They developed in 1933, and so they definitely had a huge role to play in Second World War. And also, what's important to take note is Russia, or the Soviet Union at the time, and their role and how they were involved. Now, you don't have to know much about World War II, but it's interesting to know kind of where George Orwell was in his mindset, and I'm not trying to give too much away. But basically, it's 1948, it's a couple years after World War II, and he's writing this book, and he's predicting what the future could be like what a dystopian future could be like. And he writes this book about 40 years in the future. And the first thing that's going to catch you off guard is, this book is very well written. I mean, the year is 2021 right now. This book was written in 1948, and it's easy to understand. Like, it's easy to comprehend. It's concise. It's clear. Like, you'd think reading a book like this would take you a little bit. You'd think some of the terminology used wouldn't be super relevant to this state. That is not the case. It's very well written. It's clear. It's concise. You are told about things in a certain order so that it makes sense to you. It's great in that sense. The plot is very interesting because it keeps you guessing and you're not really sure when something's going to happen. And just when you feel like things are getting stagnant, like they're getting a little bit bored, all of a sudden something changes. It takes a turn. It goes a completely different way. There's a new character introduction, maybe a character gets killed off, and it does get quite fascinating. Now, as I'm reading this book, I couldn't help but figure out and just notice all of the crazy, scary similarities between that book and the society we are living in right now. When you read a book that was written in 1948, and the year is 2021, that is over 70 years ago. And some of the things that this man in 1948 predicted that would happen in 1984 were true. Some of them did come to fruition. Some of them in the year 2021 are in fruition right now, and I see it in front of me and I go, oh my God, he was right. George Orwell predicted X, Y, and Z. Now, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to spoil it for you, but man, it's one of those books where it's easy to read, it's concise, so don't think, oh man, I'm only 18, I'm not going to understand. No, you will. I would recommend this book for anyone, I would say, above the age of 16, when you're starting to think a little bit more critically, and really, you want to understand the dynamics of a society and how a society works. If you're interested in dictatorship, if you're interested about figuring out how Nazi Germany became Nazi Germany, if you're interested about learning about places like Soviet Union, like North Korea, and how a society begins to shape itself under a dictatorship, and the small things that all add up that lead to that sort of a world, it is very fascinating. It is so plain, so simple, yet absolutely brilliant. Like, as you read the book, you're like, oh my God, this makes complete sense. Like, this is exactly why that would happen. And it really is one of those books where you read it and it's one of those where it's not like it has super abstract topics and it's hard to, like, you're sitting there thinking about it, like, I don't understand. It makes sense. It's understand you walking through it, and constantly you just keep applying it to the real world. You go, oh my God, that's like when this happened here. Oh, that's exactly like what they're doing here right now. And the amount of things that you can apply is really quite fascinating. So I would 100% recommend this book, folks. I know you can find it on Amazon. You can probably find it on a bunch of other places. You can even find the audiobook for free on YouTube. There's several different YouTubers who have uploaded the audiobook, so that's great if you want to listen to it like that. But again, ebook is online. I know for Amazon for sure. The book itself, physical copy, that's also out there. So see what you like, see what makes the most sense for you. But again, I would recommend this book for anyone who's interested in just one of those classic literatures that you have to read. Over the age of 16, you want to learn about dystopia in a sense of how a society could go wrong and how it can be so scarily predictive of the society we are living in right now. So if any of those things interest you, I read the book, I enjoyed it thoroughly. I would give it 2 thumbs up. If you're looking for a next book to read, I would highly recommend you consider George Orwell's 1984. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I did. So, enjoy.